I'm Rachel Whitman. I'm 32. And even after everything I've accomplished, my father still saw me as a failure. This year, I bought him a brand new Mercedes for Father's Day. But what I had in my purse was a DNA test that would tear our entire family apart. Before we dive in, where are you listening from right now? What's your story? Drop it in the comments. I don't remember the first time my father made me feel invisible, but I remember how normal it started to feel, like it was just part of being me. My name's Rachel Whitman. I'm the middle child, 32 years old, senior investment strategist at a firm in Manhattan. On paper, I'm what people would call accomplished, but in our family, the only thing that ever really mattered was what my father thought. And to him, I was always the outlier, the one who could have done more, the one who tried too hard, the one who never quite belonged. My father, Daniel Whitman, is a name in real estate, built his empire from nothing, now owns half the commercial property in Westchester County. He thrives on control, legacy, status. The man treats emotional connection the same way he treats overhead costs tolerable, but ideally minimized. My mom, Linda, has always been the soft counterbalance, warm, nurturing when he's not around. But the second he walks into a room, it's like she forgets how to speak in full sentences. It's not abuse, exactly, but it's not love, either. It's a silence that swallows the whole house. Then there's Nick, my older brother. Everything Dad ever wanted in a son. Varsity everything. NYU Business School. Now works alongside Dad as if he was born in a conference room. And Emily, my little sister. Soft-spoken, sweet, always knew how to diffuse the tension before it became dangerous. Emily was the peacemaker. Nick was the heir. I was the problem. Still, I tried. I pushed myself in school, graduated top of my class, got a full ride to Cornell, and when Dad asked why I didn't go to his alma mater instead, I brushed it off. After college, I moved to New York with no connections, no help. I slept on a friend's couch for 4 months while working 2 part-time jobs and sending out resumes. When I finally got hired at a big firm downtown, I called home. All Dad said was, "Let's see if you last." I lasted. 8 years and 4 promotions later, I made senior strategist, youngest in the firm's history. Last month, I bought a Manhattan condo fully paid, and with what was left over, I did something I told myself was generous, but I know now was desperate. I bought him a car, not just any car, a black Mercedes S-Class, the same model he pointed at during a golf tournament 2 summers ago and said, "Now that's a vehicle." I didn't tell anyone in the family. I just ordered it, had it delivered the weekend of the reunion, Father's Day weekend. It was supposed to be the olive branch, the grand gesture, the moment where I finally got to hear, "I'm proud of you, Rachel." But in my purse, tucked under a tube of lipstick and a business card from a hedge fund client, was a sealed envelope. Inside it was a paternity test. 3 weeks earlier, I'd taken one of those DNA kits, just out of curiosity, or so I told myself. But when the results came back, something didn't add up. The percentages, the markers, the paternal line, it didn't match what it should have. I sent off for a private test, using a sample from Dad's hairbrush when I visited home. The results came 2 days later. No match, zero relation. Daniel Whitman, the man who raised me, criticized me, dismissed me, was not my biological father. I didn't tell my mom. I didn't tell my siblings. I didn't even tell my best friend the full truth, just that something felt off. But I couldn't ignore the weight of that envelope. Every time I reached for my wallet, it reminded me it was there. Every time I practiced how I'd hand my father those car keys, I imagined what it would be like to hand him that envelope instead. The day before the reunion, I drove the car to the house myself. I knew Mom would be out at her garden club. I wanted it to be just me and him. He answered the door like he always did, like he'd been interrupted mid-deal. "You're early," he said, checking his watch. "I brought your Father's Day gift early," I replied. When I handed him the box with the Mercedes key inside, he actually looked confused. He opened it, his brow furrowed. Then he looked out the front window and saw it. I'd parked it dead center in the circular driveway, gleaming, polished, unmistakable. For a second, just a second, he looked like he might say something kind. Instead, Chan, he asked, "What are you trying to prove?" I smiled. "Nothing," I said. "I just thought you'd like it." He took the key, walked around the car, asked about insurance, financing, maintenance. He drove it around the block once, then parked it in the garage, not the driveway, like he didn't want anyone to see. He didn't thank me. He didn't ask how I could afford it. He just said, "Must be nice to have money to throw around." That night in my hotel, I sat on the edge of the bed and stared at my purse for a long time. I didn't open it. I didn't take out the envelope. But I knew the next day wasn't just going to be another family reunion, and I knew I wasn't going to sit through another toast about family legacy, pretending like I belonged to something I never really did. Not anymore. Not after what I knew. Not after what he didn't. The next morning, I arrived at the Whitman estate just after noon. Perfect June weather, warm sun, breeze through the hedges Dad had trimmed like a country club entrance. The kind of day that made our family look more polished than we really were. That was always the trick, everything presentable, nothing real. I wore a navy blue dress, tailored but simple, subtle heels, gold studs, professional, but approachable the same way I dressed for client meetings, where I needed to project success without triggering egos. I even brought a bottle of wine I didn't care about, just to play along. As I pulled up, I saw the Mercedes. He'd moved it, not back into the garage, where it was hidden the night before, but now parked prominently at the front curb, like a trophy. It wasn't lost on me. He didn't thank me, but he sure didn't mind using the car to impress people. Inside, the house buzzed with voices and perfectly curated classical music. A string quartet played out by the fountain. Hired servers moved between guests with trays of shrimp cocktails and cucumber rounds. Mom greeted me with a genuine hug. "You look beautiful," she whispered. "Your father's outside with the Petersons. You should say hello." The Petersons were one of his investor family's longtime friends in name only. I nodded, but stayed inside for a minute, grounding myself. Every year, the same choreography business partners masquerading as uncles, childhood acquaintances, acting like they remembered anything about me. And my father circling the crowd like a CEO at a shareholder meeting. Sure enough, when I joined the backyard crowd, I caught sight of him by the Mercedes again, smiling, pointing, running his fingers across the hood like he was selling it. Emily drifted to my side, holding 2 glasses of white wine. "He's given 3 separate tours this morning," she murmured. "All his friends think he bought it for himself." Mom tried to correct them. Once he cut her off. I took the glass. "That tracks." She glanced at me. "You okay?" "I don't know," I said honestly. "I didn't expect a parade." "You should have," she said gently. "You gave him something shiny. That's all he ever needs to feel powerful." I watched as he opened the passenger door for one of the Peterson boys, gesturing inside like it was part of his empire. I didn't say anything, but something in me cracked. Later, While hors d'oeuvres made their way around the living room, the family settled into its usual rhythm. Nick and his wife arrived fashionably late. Nick always liked an entrance and were greeted like royalty. "Dad," Nick said with a laugh, "this car is insane. When'd you upgrade?" Dad clapped him on the shoulder. Sometimes success gives you permission to enjoy the rewards. Not a word about the gift, not even a glance in my direction. Emily caught my eye. Her expression said everything mine couldn't. I stayed quiet, stayed poised, nodded when relatives asked about my job, brushed off digs about being single, smiled through it all, just like I always had. But around 4 p.m., I overheard something that changed the temperature in my chest. I was heading toward the bar when I passed the study. The door was slightly open. Inside, Dad was speaking with one of his old colleagues, someone I didn't recognize. They were talking about the car. She said it was a gift. The man laughed. "Impressive daughter you've got." There was a pause. Then my father's voice. "Rachel's always been hungry for validation. She's smart, sure. But most of her success comes from the base I built, the schools I paid for, the work ethic I modeled. The car's just her way of saying she finally got the message." I stopped cold. He said it like he'd raised me, like he'd taught me anything but how to brace myself for rejection. That was the moment the envelope in my purse started to feel like a brick. He had no idea what I was carrying. I didn't confront him, not then, but something shifted. I didn't go back into the main room right away. I walked the edge of the lawn, my wine untouched in my hand. That evening, we sat down for dinner. Catered. Of course, full place settings, crystal, assigned seats. I was placed at the far end of the table between Mom's second cousin and one of Dad's junior execs. Nick and Emily sat near Dad, center stage. Once the salads were cleared, the toasts began. Dad started as he always did, glass raised, voice booming with the confidence of a man used to being followed. He praised Nick's latest property venture, talked about how proud he was to see him extending the family legacy, commended Emily's work on the hospital board. "She brings grace to the name," he said. Then came my turn, or what was supposed to be. Uncle Henry piped up first. "Rachel, your mother mentioned something about a promotion." I opened my mouth, but Dad cut in. "She's doing well," he said smoothly, "though finance is always volatile, not like real estate. Real assets persist, just like that redirected. What could have been recognition became a cautionary tale. I tried to salvage it. I told the table, lightly, that my risk model had been adopted across 3 international divisions, that our team was outperforming the market by 22%. For a second, there was silence, real silence. Then Dad chuckled. "Let's see how that holds up when the next bubble bursts." And just like that, the moment collapsed. After dinner, I slipped away again. I couldn't sit through another round of him telling the world my wins didn't count. I found Emily on the back patio. "He's never going to give it to you," she said quietly. I didn't look at her. "What?" "The thing you're chasing, the approval, the moment. It doesn't exist. You sound sure." She touched my hand. "Because I tried too. Not as long, but I know what it feels like. It's not you, Rach. It's him." I nodded, but my mind was already somewhere else, in my purse. The envelope sat untouched, sealed, but it wasn't going to stay that way much longer, not after tonight. The main course was beef Wellington, served with such ceremony you'd think it was royalty on a plate. The staff moved in sync, wine glasses topped off, every plate placed with precision. But I wasn't tasting anything. My fork moved, but my head was elsewhere. I couldn't stop glancing at the envelope, still zipped inside my purse, still unopened by anyone but me, but now it felt radioactive. As the plates were cleared and coffee was served, Daniel leaned back in his chair with his signature glass of brandy, his cue that a speech was coming. You could feel it before it began. People straightened up. Forks went down. The room stilled itself, as if out of habit. He stood slowly, cleared his throat, raised the glass. "I just want to say how proud I am," he began, voice warm, performative. "Proud of the family we've built, the legacy we continue, and the example we set." A few heads nodded. Someone clapped quietly. The room was all ears. He turned to Nick first. "To my son, your leadership in the business continues to impress. The Riverside Project is a masterclass in risk and reward. You've honored the Whitman name." Nick nodded, clearly expecting the moment. Then to Emily, "Your grace and balance, the way you juggle your board work and motherhood, reminds us that strength doesn't always have to be loud." Emily gave him a small smile, though it didn't quite reach her eyes. And then, the pause. His gaze landed on me. Everyone turned too, the part where I was usually left out. Only this time, he didn't skip me. This time, he decided to go in for the kill. He smiled just a little and said, "And as I reflect on my children's accomplishments, I realize I'm proud of all of them." Pause. Except the loser. The silence was instant, the kind that crushes the air out of a room. Forks froze midair, coffee cups suspended. Some people thought they misheard. Others let out small, nervous laughs, hoping it was a joke. But I knew better. There was no punchline. His eyes never left mine. He meant every word. I didn't move. I didn't flinch. I didn't even blink. My heart pounded in my throat, but my hands were steady. I stood up, slowly, carefully. The chair scraped back just enough to grab the room's full attention. I didn't say a word at first. Then I picked up my purse from beside my chair, unzipped it, took out the envelope, walked around the table, and placed it clean and square right in front of him. "For you," I said. My voice was calm, even. "Happy Father's Day." Then I turned and walked out. No yelling, no tears, just clean exit. I heard my mom's breath catch, heard a wine glass clink against a plate. He didn't call after me, not yet. He was still processing what had just landed on the table. I moved through the front foyer in a blur of polished floors and art I'd never liked. Outside, the air hit my face like a reset button. The car was right where he parked it, but this time I had the spare key. The fob was in my clutch. I clicked it. Lights blinked. The door unlocked. I got in. The driver's seat was still adjusted to his height, back too far. Steering wheel slightly tilted. I adjusted everything in silence, put my foot on the brake, pushed the start button. The engine purred to life, expensive and quiet, like nothing was wrong. I backed out of the circular drive without looking up, but in the rearview mirror, I saw the front door swing open. He came running, Daniel Whitman, the man who never raised his voice unless it was in strategy meetings, came sprinting barefoot into the driveway. He had the envelope in his hand, already torn open, papers fluttering in the wind. He was yelling. I couldn't hear the words. The engine masked everything, but his face said it all. Shock, rage, confusion, fear. I didn't stop. I didn't roll down the window. I didn't even slow the car. For once, I was the one in control of the moment, and I wasn't giving it back. My phone started buzzing the second I hit the street. Calls, messages, one after another. First Emily, then Mom, then Nick, then numbers I didn't recognize, cousins, probably. or the Petersons. I silenced it, let it all go to voicemail. 5 minutes later, I was on the highway, heading toward the city. I didn't cry, I didn't rage. What I felt was something else entirely, like I'd been underwater for 32 years and finally broke the surface. It didn't matter what he said now. It didn't matter what anyone else in that room thought. The truth was out. He wasn't my father, and I was done pretending that his love, his approval was ever mine to earn. I checked into a quiet hotel off Central Park West that night. No fanfare, no planning. I'd packed an overnight bag just in case. Turned out, I needed it. I dropped the keycard on the desk, kicked off my shoes, and let my body sink into the bed like it had been waiting years to exhale. The first call came 20 minutes later. Emily. I didn't answer, but when the same number showed up again, I picked up. "Are you okay?" she whispered. I stared at the ceiling. "I think so." There was a pause on the other end. "You lit the place on fire," she said, "and then you just walked out." "How bad is it?" Dad screaming in the study. Mom locked herself in the bedroom. Nick tried to calm him down and got yelled at too. I closed my eyes. The envelope. Oh, he opened it. In front of everyone. Read it standing right there at the table. His face. I've never seen him like that. Did anyone say anything? Everyone got real quiet. Then they started leaving. The room cleared out in 20 minutes. I nodded to myself. I'm not going back. I said, "I didn't think you would." Before we hung up, she said, "Whatever happens next, I'm still your sister. That doesn't change." That was the first moment I teared up. Not at the reunion, not during the speech, but sitting alone in a hotel robe, hearing the only person in my family say, "This doesn't change anything." The next morning, I met my mom for coffee. She picked the place, some small bakery on the Upper East Side she used to love when she visited me during college. She looked different, not polished, not performative, just real. "I was hoping you'd call," she said, sitting across from me. I didn't speak, I just waited. She took a breath, hands trembling a little. "His name was Thomas Keller," she said quietly. "We met my junior year. He was studying engineering at MIT. Smart, gentle, not someone my family ever approved of." I sat still, let her talk. They found out and ended it. "I was engaged to your father within 2 months. I found out I was pregnant after that. Your father knew. I told him. I watched her closely. And he married you anyway." She nodded. "He said he'd raise you as his own, that it didn't matter, but it always did. He never got past it. Every time he looked at you, I think he saw the reminder. He punished me for it. I know." Her voice cracked. "I saw it, and I did nothing." That was the hardest part to hear. And yet, it was honest. "I tried to convince myself you were strong," she continued, "that you didn't need him. But I was wrong. You needed answers. I just didn't have the courage to give them." I looked down at my coffee. "I'm not angry," I said slowly. "I'm just done pretending." She nodded. "You have every right." That night, I sent a message. I'd found Thomas Keller's business online, an engineering firm in San Diego. He was still listed as founder, still working. I wrote something short, direct, explained the situation, attached the test results, said I wasn't expecting anything, just wanted him to know. He replied 2 days later. His message was careful, kind, shocked, obviously, but open. "I'd like to speak," he wrote. "If and when you're ready, I'll be in New York next month for a conference. Coffee." We made plans to meet, and for the first time in weeks, I slept through the night. A few days later, I had my attorney draft a letter. The Mercedes would be returned to Daniel's lawyer, keys and title included. No message, no apology, just finality. The voicemail from Daniel came that same afternoon. Short, cold, legal sounding. You made your point. Now be an adult and return what doesn't belong to you. I deleted it. No response. Nick sent 2 messages. The first accused me of destroying the family name. The second threatened legal action if I didn't correct the record. I blocked his number, Emily, though called every evening, sometimes just to check in, sometimes to vent about how their house had turned into a Cold War, but mostly, she just wanted to make sure I was okay. I'm sorry I didn't stand up for you sooner, she said one night. I saw it, all of it, but I told myself that keeping the peace mattered more. I was wrong. Yeah, I said softly, but you're here now, and that mattered more than she realized. 3 weeks later, I met Thomas Keller in a cafe downtown. He looked nothing like Daniel, but the second he smiled, I saw the crease at the edge of his eyes, the one I'd always seen in the mirror and never recognized. We talked for hours about nothing at first, whether work, the city, then slowly, more. He didn't try to jump into fatherhood, didn't overwhelm me with emotion. He just listened. And that, honestly, was more than I'd ever gotten from the man who raised me. I walked away from that meeting lighter, like some puzzle piece that never fit had finally found its place. By the end of summer, I had sold the Mercedes, took the money and reinvested it into something that actually mattered: my own name, my own plans, my own peace. Mom and I started rebuilding not by pretending things hadn't happened, but by acknowledging them, slowly, honestly. It wasn't easy, but it was real. Emily and I grew closer too. We met for brunch most weekends. No more tiptoeing around the past, just 2 sisters, finally being honest with each other. Daniel never reached out again, and I didn't expect him to. The truth was, he didn't lose a daughter. He never really had one, but I stopped chasing someone who never looked back. And that's the part no one talks about, how freeing it is to stop trying, to realize that you were never broken, you were just stuck in a system designed to make you feel that way. So here's what I know now. Blood didn't raise me, but silence almost broke me. I'm not the loser he tried to make me feel like. I'm the woman who stood up, told the truth, and walked away with her head high. And this time, I never looked back.